You are an amazing person. You have some sort of product or service. You want it to be extremely accessible, so you priced it too low. There are some people buying and paying for it, but not enough. So you don't have enough revenue generated to keep the thing going. You don't want to charge more because you don't want to push out the people who need it the most. But you can't provide it because you can't afford to keep it going. Does that hit home? If it hits home, there's something we can do about that. First thing you need to know is I'm Arlan, and I have invested in more than 200 companies led by women, people of color, LGBTQ+, and more. I call them the underestimated, and I feel like you may feel underestimated yourself too. Today I want to talk to you about defining your target audience and also looking for premium customers. These two things are really important. I have a program called Inner Circle that's actually on waitlist right now, so you can't sign up for it, but it has about 24 people in it, and we work really closely one-on-one all year long. I had a recent call with one of my Inner Circle members that I thought I definitely want to talk about some of the things that we mentioned in this call because it was very helpful to her. So the first thing is defining who your target audience is. No matter what kind of company you have or want to build, this will be one of the most important things you do right out the gate. As with most things, it's about experimentation and it's about learning and maybe even pivoting when needed. But if you can start with something, start with some idea, and usually that idea is propelled by something you want to give to the world, right? Most people don't start companies just for the sake of it because it's kind of hard to do. So usually when you start a company, you have a reason and a purpose behind it. Use that reason and purpose to define who you're actually serving. And you'll hear that word a lot in the startup world. It's like, who am I serving? What am I doing for the customer? If you can think in those terms rather than how much money can the customer pay me, you're already 5 steps ahead. The reason it's important to know who your target customer is because it helps save a lot of time and heartache. It also helps you deliver on your promises in a much better fashion. So think about the time saving and the money saving, really. Like if you know who your customer is, you know who you're talking to, who you're trying to find, you're going to spend less time and money advertising to other people, to the wrong potential customer. So you'll be able to target your marketing and your advertising. If you know that your target customer, your ideal customer, is someone who is a surfer between the ages of 30 and 50 and lives on the West Coast, then you will have a much better chance of finding that customer than if you think that your customer is everyone. Now you might say, well, that's so niche and specific, won't I be missing out on extra dollars? Yes and no. You may at the beginning miss out on the opportunity to sell to a lot more people, but the chances of you actually selling are higher because you're offering something that is specific to a group of people who are looking for it. You have less competition, although you will always have some, and therefore you will have a shorter line to you finding your customer and vice versa. Then over time, once you have dominated in that niche, you can build out more and more and more. And you can build features and products and services that service other people. But if you start there and dominate there, you get a lot of traction. One way of thinking about this is what we're doing with Yacht Water. This is my new still and sparkling brand. This comes out in July. And what we're doing is we are not going to every single store in the country and asking them, begging them to be in stores. I could easily put out a tweet or put out an email or make a few phone calls and get into thousands of stores because I've built this whole kind of infrastructure. But if I were to do that and then the cans don't sell well because it's too spread out, that would be a disaster. I would not be asked to come back the next month. So instead, what we're doing is we're going to start in 1 store, and then 3 stores, and 10 stores, and we're gonna do it little by little, organically. And in those first 10 stores, we're gonna put all of our energy into getting as many customers to come in as possible. We're gonna demo there. We're gonna get new people there. We're gonna get my mailing list, and people who've read my book, Your First Million, are gonna be Yacht Water enthusiasts, right? The people who have invested at yachtwater.com are going to spread the word like wildfire. And we're going to make those 10 storefronts so successful that other stores will hear about it. And when we go to them, they'll say, please come to us. And then we'll grow a little bit more and a little bit more. And as we start to see, oh, we're getting this indication that a lot of people are looking for Yacht Water at their stores, but they're not seeing them, that's when we will expand. And the instinct might be the opposite, but I really believe this is the way to go. So you have that slow, steady growth at the beginning to go faster later. So getting really aligned and on target with who you're trying to reach gets very interesting. Another great thing about finding your target audience is that you can have a higher lifetime value potentially from those customers who believe in you the most and who use your product or service the most. So again, let's say you're starting out and you know your person. When I say your person, I mean the example of the person who is your best customer. So that could be by their demographics, their age, their race, their orientation, their location, or it could be by their psychographics, which is what do they think, what do they feel, what's their opinion of things, who do they follow, what's something that turns them off, what is something that they are propelled towards. Those are psychographic things. You can start there, so you think about like, who are actually my customers? Either I can imagine them based on what I'm doing and I've talked to them and I've done that research that we've talked about, or you could say, who is already my customer? Now, of course, you may have customers that are all over the place. We talked about this in my video going from 0 to 10,000, where I say who my target audience is. Check it out if you want to know more. But that's not everyone who's watching. There are definitely people who don't fit the bill, but that's okay because we want to bring people in from all over while we're focusing in the middle. So when you do that, you have the target audience, you're able to serve them better, they're able to have more of a transformation or a good experience. They then give you testimonials, which you are then able to give to people who are new, who then sign up, go through whatever it is you're selling them, and then they have a transformational experience and they give you testimonials. And this is what we call a flywheel. This is exactly what you want in your company. It's a system that you want where things just work, automated. Then, because you're able to do that, you can offer those same customers something more. You can offer them an even better experience. Let's even say for CPG, which is kind of, you wouldn't think of that first, but for water, like it's water, right? But what if they are your perfect customer, your ideal customer, they're working out and they're buying from you already? You could offer them a subscription. You could offer them a premium experience where they can get this in bulk and they can actually take it to events or take it within their companies or do things outside of the box. There's so much to think about diving deeper into the customer experience and therefore drawing out more revenue opportunity over time. So that's why you want to start now thinking about who that target audience is. Another thing I want you to think about is the ability to pay for your product or pay for your service. Many times we will start a company where we are selling something for $5, $10, $20, $50, and we need thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, if not more, customers in order to grow exponentially. So on this call I had with my Inner Circle member, we started thinking through their products and services. What they had was a service that cost about $1,000, and it was a membership program, and they had a few dozen people in it. So that's a great living, right? Really awesome. But in this 45-minute call I had with them, I challenged them to think through the higher ticket offer that they have. They already have a high ticket offer. A few people are there, but if you look at it apples to apples, the high ticket offer actually makes as much as the lower ticket offer. And I thought, well, if this part, the lower ticket offer, you're spending like 80% of your time keeping this up, and the 20% of your time is making the same amount, what would happen if we did a 50-50 split of time, where this went lower and this went higher? That would be really interesting. What would happen if we took this away altogether, where this was everything that you did? And the thought there was, well, I want it to be accessible to people. So there is an argument for keeping 20 to 50% of it, the lower ticket. I think that's really reasonable. But you also want to think about how much energy you're expending here. Then over here though, where can we turn this into 2, 3, or 5x the revenue by just doing a little bit more leveraged? So if you leverage your time, you leverage your resources, you leverage the transformation you're giving people, what could happen? And it all boiled down to the type of customer. You want a customer who can afford you. You want a customer who can afford you. I want to say it twice because it's really important. So many of us, wait, I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm gonna say something to you. You tell me if this resonates. You are an amazing person. You have some sort of product or service. You want it to be extremely accessible, so you priced it too low. There are some people buying and paying for it, but not enough. So you don't have enough revenue generated to keep the thing going. You don't want to charge more because you don't want to push out the people who need it the most. But you can't provide it because you can't afford to keep it going. Does that hit home? If it hits home, there's something we can do about that. First thing you need to know is that it's wonderful that you want that, and I feel the same way. It's my life's work is in that. But if we cannot afford to keep our companies afloat, if we can't pay our bills, we are no good to anyone. We are not serving anyone. And so we have to think about it like this. What's the smaller group of people who can afford our services and in fact will pay more than what we're currently charging, maybe 5 times, 10 times, or even more than that, for a high quality situation? They pay for it because they can afford it and because we're helping them have value that's worth even more than that. And by doing that, it subsidizes your time that you can spend offering it to everyone else for cheaper or for free. So let's go back and think about that for a second. Let's say, for instance, you have a course and you want as many people as possible to be able to see this course because they need to learn it. Have a version of it that costs thousands of dollars and focus on the people who can afford it and target them as your target audience. Have them pay for it, have them have an experience, you can call it elevated if you'd like, where they get to have more one-on-one with you and they get more perks and benefits and they have a faster transformation that they can say, I spent $5,000 on this, I made $50,000 by doing the things I've learned and just by the freedom it offered me. Then on this side, create a version that does not include so much of your one-on-one time, but potentially is a group setting. So you jump on Zoom or you jump on somewhere once per month and you talk to this audience at large. They either pay a small monthly fee or they pay nothing, but they get a lot of the same learnings from you and they talk to each other, and that's how they have accountability. And then what your goal is here is to make them so successful at what they're doing and what you're helping them with, that they then become this group over here who can then afford you. But if we do it the other way and everybody's paying the same amount and everybody is missing out because you went out of business, who wins? Something I want you to think about. When you're thinking about that and applying it to your company, so we're talking about people who can afford it individually, and we're talking about companies. So we're talking about startups who have raised money recently, who have high revenue coming in. You can read about these companies on crunchbase.com. You can read about them in TechCrunch. You want to target those companies who can afford you. Then you're talking the Fortune 1000 companies, the household names. You can get into those companies, but the sales cycles tend to be long and it's a little tougher to get into those deals. But what about the millions of companies who are not Fortune 1000 companies, but who need your service? You know, I think of a third Inner Circle member, and she has an HR service, and she was selling to people who could not afford her, and it was causing a lot of trouble. But then when we talked it out during one of our sessions, I said to her, why don't you go after this group of people who are, like, I call them Series A or B, because they are Series A or B companies, which means if you go look it up in venture, they've raised probably at least $1 million. They probably have $1 million plus in revenue every year. And then they've raised probably $1 to $10 million. And if your service costs $25,000 a year, that's something they can afford if it's something that they need. Whereas $25,000 a year might feel like something insurmountable to someone else who's just getting started. So then you get 10 of those clients, and then you're able to spend 20% of your time doing whatever you'd like, talking to this audience that you want to serve too. So you serve your paid clients really well, and you serve your unpaid or discounted clients really well. And then you have a fulfilling life. Okay, make sure you subscribe. Make sure I see you next time. And do not miss out on HireRunner.co. You can go to arlansinnercircle.com if you want to see what my inner circle is about. But again, it is on wait list. I am not signing up new people right now. And it's definitely something that I'll bring some of the learnings back to this YouTube channel. Thanks.